The hip-hop world has been absolutely rocked this week after 50 Cent dropped the opening episodes of what is shaping up to be one of the most explosive documentaries the rap industry has ever witnessed. And he aimed every second of it directly at T.I. and King Harris. The footage, which insiders are describing as shocking, compromising, and deeply unsettling, has already been viewed by some of the biggest names in the game, including Boozy Badazz, Rick Ross, and Lil Baby. And from what we are hearing, their reactions were nothing short of savage. The clips have set the entire hip-hop community into a frenzy of laughter, disbelief, and serious questions about what exactly the Harris family's reputation is built on. But to truly understand how we got here, and you have to rewind to where the first spark was struck, and that spark has a name, Versus. For anyone who has been living under a rock, Versus is the legendary music battle format where two artists go hit for hit in front of a live audience, celebrating their combined catalogs in a competitive but festive atmosphere. It became one of the most talked about entertainment concepts of the pandemic era, and T.I. had his eyes on it from the very beginning. Specifically, he had his eyes on one opponent, 50 Cent. T.I. had reportedly been pushing for this matchup for years, and by his own account, the two had even spoken about it privately and reached a mutual understanding. According to T.I., the plan was never about tearing each other down. It was a celebration. He made that clear on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, explaining that he and 50 had been moving around Los Angeles together, selling shows, and that the Versus idea had come up organically in their conversations. He even said publicly, "Me and this Nafie talked about this. I just ain't call him out of the blue. This ain't come out of nowhere." What made the call out even more personal was how far back T's desire for this matchup went. As early as 2020, right in the thick of the COVID-19 pandemic, when Versus events were first dominating social media, T.I. used 50 Cent's own birthday as the moment to publicly issue the challenge. On Instagram, he looked directly into the camera and delivered those now famous words, "Pull your ass up with 20 of your records, man. Sit across from me, man." At the time, 50 brushed it off without missing a beat. But I never let the idea die. Then February 2026 arrived, and Tip decided it was time to turn the heat back up. The latest chapter officially opened on February 6th when T.I. sat down with Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson on their popular podcast, Nightcap. The two hosts got T.I. fired up all over again about the Versus concept, and he wasted absolutely no time making his feelings known on air. He explained that his original dream opponent had been Gucci Mane, but once Gucci squared off against Jeezy in one of the most iconic Versus battles ever, that window was closed forever. So T.I. pivoted to who he believed was the only worthy alternative. "I said I wanted 50, he declared on Nightcap. "He don't want no smoke though. I called my man out. He ducking smoke." What happened next is the moment this entire saga took a sharp and dramatic turn. When T.I. made his public announcement about the Versus challenge, under the impression that 50 had already agreed and would follow his lead, 50 Cent did the exact opposite of what T.I. expected. He denied everything, played completely ignorant, and then proceeded to publicly humiliate T.Y. for making the announcement in the first place. Just like that, the man who thought he was about to announce a historic musical event found himself standing alone, looking as though he had invented an agreement that never existed. For T.I., the embarrassment was real, and it was very public. He had put his credibility on the line, told the world that a Versus with 50 Cent was coming, and 50 had essentially laughed in his face in front of everyone. Superchata, speaking on $1 Million Worth of Game, a visibly frustrated T.I. did not mince words. "When I jumped out there, he act like he ain't know what the FK was going on," he said. "Just say you don't want to do it. All this other extra lame-ass ST, man, this namada goofy." 50 Cent, being the social media tactician that he is, responded with the kind of precision that only he is capable of. Rather than dignifying T.I.'s challenge with a direct acknowledgement, he went to his Instagram page on February 6th and posted a resurfaced video of T.I. participating in a 2010 Atlanta Crime Stoppers commercial, a clip loaded with implication. "I know Atlanta pick and choose who they support, but y'all gotta do better. LOL. Keep my name out your mouth." 50 captioned the post. Sawa, the message embedded in that video was crystal clear to anyone fluent in hip-hop culture. 50 was calling T.I. a snitch, and he was doing it with a smile. In the world of rap, few accusations carry more weight or more consequences than that one. 50 doubled down by publicly attaching the nickname King Rat to T.I., making the insinuation impossible to ignore. T.I., never one to be silent when his name is being dragged, fired back with full force. "You playing on my name when only one of us a rat in real life?" he wrote. "You know I got your paperwork, right? And my transcript is available online. Your excuses is useless. Get your ED in the box or STFU and live in fear. You soft son. Ah, you've lost my respect. What had started as a friendly challenge about a music battle had officially exploded into a full-scale rap war. It is worth stepping back for a moment to acknowledge that this tension between these two titans is not something that was born in 2026. The competitive energy between 50 Cent and T.I. stretches all the way back to 2006, when both men were arguably at the absolute height of their powers. 50 commanding the throne from New York as the face of G-Unit, and T.Y. holding down the entire South as its self-proclaimed king. The sneak disses and subtle jabs of that era never fully disappeared. They just went underground. Until now, when everything that had been simmering for 20 years finally boiled over completely. The moment 50 Cent put the snitch label on T.I. for the entire internet to see, any chance of this staying a civilized exchange of words was gone. But the moment that transformed this from a rap beef into a full-blown cultural event, the moment that had every fan, every journalist, and every fellow celebrity glued to their screen, was when 50 made the decision to bring T.I.'s family into it. That was the point of no return. Without warning, 50 Cent took to Instagram and posted an unflattering image of T.I.'s wife, the iconic Tamika Tiny Harris, with the caption, "I keep saying, keep my name out your mouth, okay?" As if that were not enough, he followed it almost immediately with a meme that put both Tiny and her son King Harris in the frame, captioning it with, "God don't like ugly." The Harris household had officially been made a target, and the entire family was about to respond in a way that nobody was fully prepared for. There is an unspoken code in hip-hop, one that most artists, no matter how deeply entrenched in a beef, tend to honor. And that code says you do not touch a man's wife and children. 50 Cent had crossed that line in front of millions of followers, and T.I. was not about to let it slide quietly. With every member of his family now vocally involved in the drama, T.I. answered the only way a decorated rapper of his caliber knows how, through music and through a lot of it. T.I. opened his musical offensive with War, a heavy, brooding warning shot that made it abundantly clear the bear had been awakened. Later that same day, but he followed it up with The Right One, a far more targeted and razor-sharp strike aimed directly at 50 Cent's street credibility. On that track, T.I. branded 50 a five-time federal cooperator, a direct and damning snitch allegation, and claimed to possess prison paperwork with 50 Cent's name written all over it. This was not vague shade thrown from a distance. This was a surgical assault on the very foundation of everything 50 Cent has built his legacy upon. T.I. would eventually release a total of 4 diss tracks: War, The Right One, Lessons, and What Bully, making it one of the most prolific outpourings of diss music from a single artist in recent memory. But the Harris family was just getting started. T.I.'s 24-year-old son, Damani, stepped into the ring with his own diss track titled Ms. Jackson, Built Over Jay. Wix Cole's Poor Thing instrumental and sampling Outkast's timeless classic. Damani came out swinging in a way that left listeners genuinely stunned. In his first verse, he spoke directly to 50 Cent's late mother, asking, "Are you happy with the way he been holding your family name? I need to know, cause I can't sleep at night thinking you died in vain." It was a deeply personal and deeply controversial line, one that sent shockwaves through the culture the moment it hit the internet. Damani was not done with just the first verse. He closed out Ms. Jackson with a second verse addressed directly to 50 Cent himself, finishing with the chilling line, "The next time you missing mama, I can send you right to her." Jaw-dropping does not even begin to cover the reaction online. But before the dust could settle on that, T.I.'s youngest son, 21-year-old King Harris, decided it was his turn to step forward, and he made absolutely sure the world knew he had arrived. King Harris dropped his first diss track, Made Man, on a Wednesday, and the message was unmistakable from the very first bar. Do not disrespect his mother, and do not think for a second that the Harris sons are going to sit on the sidelines. But if Made Man was a statement, his follow-up track, Salis, was a declaration of total war. In Salis, King Harris went to a place that stunned even the most hardened observers of this feud, telling 50 Cent in no uncertain terms to dig his late mother, Sabrina, out of her grave. And as if the lyrics themselves were not striking enough, King Harris appeared in the music video smoking while wearing a custom t-shirt bearing the image of 50 Cent's deceased mother. The internet practically melted. The cherry on top of an already extraordinary moment came when Rick Ross, 50 Cent's most famous and longest-running rival, spotted the post and immediately poured gasoline on the flames, leaving a comment requesting the same shirt in a 3XL. The delight he was taking in the chaos was impossible to miss. Then, in a moment that signaled just how far the cultural ripple effects of this beef had spread, Beyoncé's mother, Tina Knowles, appeared to throw her support behind the T.I. camp by reposting a photo of Tiny on her social media. The culture had picked a side, and 50 Cent took notice immediately. True to form, 50 Cent refused to let even that go without comment. He dragged Tina Knowles directly into the conversation, sharing a photo of her with the caption, "I'm not going to do it, but c'est is getting weird." By this point, the entire beef had evolved into something far bigger than a dispute between two rappers. It had become a full-scale cultural event with celebrity spectators, family members, and social media audiences all watching in real time. Through all of it, 4 diss tracks from T.I., 2 from King Harris, and 1 from Damani, 50 Cent conspicuously refused to respond with music. He stayed firmly planted on Instagram, firing memes and captions rather than verses. People began to wonder whether that silence was laziness, indifference, or something far more strategic. Then King Harris made a move that shifted the conversation into entirely new territory. He posted what he described as a 2009 federal document connected to the murder investigation of Lil Loy Mac Fletcher, a filing that referenced an anonymous tip, one that investigators allegedly traced back to none other than Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. According to the document shared by King Harris, Jackson himself confirmed he was the one who placed the anonymous call, stating he was in fear for his life following Fletcher's death. In hip-hop, where the accusation of cooperating with federal authorities can permanently destroy a legacy, this was as explosive as it gets. The document, which King Harris presented on Instagram as what appeared to be an official FBI report, went further, alleging that 50 had informed officials that James "Jimmy Henchman" Rosemond had ordered Lil Loy Mac's murder, a man who is currently serving a life sentence. The irony was impossible to ignore. Here was 50 Cent, the man who had been publicly calling T.I. King Rat and branding him a snitch, now facing paperwork that his opponent's son was using to flip that very same narrative back on him. The fact that it was a 21-year-old doing the digging, and not a seasoned veteran, added an entirely new dimension to the story. King Harris's involvement had transformed what began as a generational beef between two rap legends into something broader and more layered. A public argument that now stretched across 2 generations, with the sons fighting just as fiercely as the fathers. The culture was watching not just the elders clash, but the next generation step up with startling confidence. 50 Cent pushed back. He reportedly denied the allegations emphatically, insisting that he had never cooperated with law enforcement at any point in his life. But the paperwork was already in circulation, screenshots were being shared by the thousands, and for a culture that often values perception just as heavily as proof, the damage had been inflicted whether the documents were verified or not. King Harris had played the information card, and it had landed exactly where he intended. Meanwhile, T.I. began to do something that surprised many people watching. He started to reflect. During a candid sit-down with Ebro, Laura, and Rosenberg, he spoke openly and honestly about how he felt watching his sons throw themselves headfirst into this battle. He admitted it was not a comfortable thing to witness. "No, I don't enjoy it," he said, particularly when referring to King's most scorched earth moments in the feud. "I spent so much time trying to get this little hey off the ledge. Now he has justifiable means to undo all of the teaching that I've been teaching." There was something raw and genuinely parental about how T.I. framed that admission, a father caught between pride and concern, watching his son channel a righteous anger in ways that sometimes made even him flinch. When pressed about the exact moment he felt the beef had gone a step too far, T.I. answered without hesitation. It was the t-shirt. Watching King Harris stand at a music video wearing a custom shirt printed with the image of 50 Cent's deceased mother was the line T.I. himself had not expected his son to cross. "I said, 'That's enough,' when I seen that t-shirt," T.I. stated plainly. He was not questioning King's loyalty to his mother or his family. That part, T.I. made clear he was genuinely proud of. What he was questioning was the method. He spoke about his personal code, his belief in treating people the way he himself would want to be treated. The t-shirt, in his view, crossed from retaliation into something that made him uncomfortable regardless of what had been done to provoke it. And yet, even with those reservations on the table, T.I. made one thing absolutely clear. He was proud of the men his sons had shown themselves to be in defending their mother. "I raise my children to be men of respect, logical, reasonable, and not to be emotional," he said. "The one thing that I am proud of is that the women and children in our families see that there's a line of men here against whoever the fuck." That was T.I. the father speaking, not T.I. the rapper. And in that moment, the entire beef took on a weight that went far beyond music. Even as the dust began to settle slightly on the diss track front, T.I. made one thing crystal clear during his conversation with Ebro, Laura, and Rosenberg. None of this had been manufactured for attention. He was not some desperate artist using a fabricated beef to push a single. He had not gone searching for a fight. He had simply responded when one was forced upon him. Specifically, when 50 Cent chose to mock and demean his wife and family in front of millions of people. T.I. also made sure to remind everyone that his music was already moving on its own terms, with his hit single, Let Him Know, already making waves on urban radio without needing any controversy to push it forward. But the most cutting line T.I. delivered during that entire sit-down was the one he aimed at 50's sudden silence. After weeks of relentless trolling, memes, and public provocations, 50 Cent had gone quiet. And T.I. had a very specific message about what that quietness revealed. And ultimately, all of the quietness that we're witnessing right now from Dude, what would have happened if that quietness was practiced at the beginning? I asked pointedly. Absolutely nothing. We wouldn't be here. In 7 sentences, T.I. managed to reduce the entire feud to its most essential truth. 50 Cent had started something he apparently no longer wanted to finish, and T.I. was going to make sure everyone remembered that. While T.I. and his family were doing their talking through microphones and music videos, 50 Cent was busy doing something far more calculated. He was not in the studio. He was in the editing room. On March 5th, 2026, 50 posted, and then rapidly deleted, an Instagram screenshot of a headline that read, 50 Cent, reportedly developing Surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary. The caption that accompanied it before it disappeared was nothing short of a declaration. Remember how quiet I got before the Diddy doc? He wrote. Dame thought I wasn't coming. I hope this doesn't mess up your promo tour. They're going to ask about your 20 sexual assault cases. You might want to talk to a crisis PR person. Yorita. Every single word of that caption was deliberate. The reference to the Diddy doc was not accidental. It was a direct and unmistakable callback to the Netflix documentary series on Sean Combs that 50 Cent executive produced in late 2025, a project widely credited with accelerating the most catastrophic public downfall in hip-hop history. By invoking that comparison, 50 was not being subtle. He was issuing a warning with a proven track record behind it. The title itself, Surviving T.I. and Tiny, was chosen with the same kind of surgical precision. It deliberately echoes the format of Surviving R. Kelly, the same template 50 had weaponized against Diddy with devastating effect. For 50 Cent to invoke the title format of a documentary that helped accelerate the downfall of R. Kelly, and then point it directly at T.I. and Tiny, was not a clumsy move. It was a calculated, strategic deployment of a proven weapon. Insiders have described the rumored project as an investigative-style documentary similar in structure and tone to the series 50 previously produced about Sean Combs, one that would reportedly revisit sexual misconduct allegations made by multiple women against T.Y. and Tiny spanning from 2005 to 2015, including accusations of sexual assault and drugging. It is critically important to note here that T.I. and Tiny have consistently and categorically denied every allegation made against them, and the vast majority of the lawsuits associated with those claims have been dismissed in court. And there have been no criminal convictions. But in the court of public opinion, and certainly in the world of streaming documentaries, legal outcomes and narrative power are two very different things. And 50 Cent has made it abundantly clear that he understands that distinction better than almost anyone. If the documentary is real and ultimately moves forward, it would represent something far beyond a diss track or a meme. It would be 50 Cent's nuclear option, his ultimate power move in a feud that has already produced more drama than most rap rivalries manage in an entire decade. And the timing could not be more strategically targeted. T.I. is currently in the final stages of preparing Kill the King, his much-anticipated farewell album, his swan song to a career that has placed him among the all-time greats of Southern hip-hop. A documentary of this nature, dropped at precisely this moment, would have the very real potential to swallow the entire rollout whole. That is the scenario that has the entire industry whispering. The stakes have shifted dramatically. This is no longer simply about who won an Instagram exchange or whose diss track hit harder. If 50 Cent follows through, T.I.'s final chapter as a recording artist could be permanently overshadowed by a documentary war rather than celebrated for the music. The question that every hip-hop insider is asking out loud right now is whether this documentary is a genuine project in development or simply another entry in 50 Cent's long history of using social media to shake his opponents before delivering the actual blow. And that, right there, is what makes this situation uniquely terrifying for T.I.'s camp. Because 50 Cent has followed through before. The Diddy documentary was not a bluff. It was real, it was powerful, and it landed after a prolonged period of silence that many people misread as 50 retreating. That is the pattern, that is the playbook. And it is the detail that should make anyone wearing a Team T.I. jersey feel at least a little bit uneasy. 50 Cent has a very specific way of operating when he is serious about taking someone down. He goes quiet. People around him start to assume he has lost interest, moved on, or been outmaneuvered. And then he delivers something so decisive that the conversation is completely reset on his terms. The Diddy situation unfolded almost exactly that way. Whether or not a single frame of the surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary has actually been filmed, the threat alone has already accomplished something significant. It has changed the conversation entirely. Instead of talking about T.I.'s music, people are talking about T.I.'s past allegations. That shift in narrative is, by itself, a victory for 50 in this particular war. T.I., to his immense credit, has refused to give 50 the satisfaction of seeing him sweat. Instead of going quiet or playing defense, Tip leaned directly into the documentary threat and matched it with a challenge of his own. Taking to Instagram with his characteristic confidence, T.I. wrote, "We can go bar for bar, hit for hit, or doc for doc. Either way, all you gonna do is show how much of a FKNA you is." The post arrived with a clip of T.I. and King Harris listening to Let M, a track from the upcoming Kill the King album. A deliberate visual statement about where T.I.'s focus was actually aimed. His message to 50 was unmistakable. Bring whatever you want, because I have something waiting for you on every front. That doc for doc line, in particular, set the internet on fire. T.I. was not just brushing off the documentary threat, he was issuing one of his own. He was telling 50 Cent that if a documentary war was what he wanted, then a documentary war was exactly what he was going to get. It was the kind of cold, measured response that reminded everyone why T.I. has never been considered someone to take lightly in a confrontation. He followed it up with another Instagram post, this one featuring a full family photo with the caption, "50 Cent, drop whatever you choose, just please keep showing the world you a hop." Calm, poised, and completely unbothered, or at least presenting the appearance of it with remarkable discipline. And through all of the chaos, the music has been performing. T.I.'s single, Let Him Know, delivered one of his strongest chart performances in over a decade, earning him his first solo Billboard Hot 100 entry in more than 10 years. Midi Panpoid, holding at number 50 on the chart, dated February 21st. The track climbed to number 1 on urban radio and crossed into the top 40, giving T.I. a genuine commercial moment that proved his relevance as an artist was not dependent on any beef for its energy. Meanwhile, 50 Cent continued playing his own game, making it abundantly clear through an Instagram post featuring what he described as a fake award certificate that he had absolutely no interest in returning to the recording booth to battle T. I goes to old rappers still trying to battle rap. He wrote, accompanied by his signature laughter. ChatGPT told me that. I don't need me to rap. You need me to rap. LOL, get the fuck off my page. 50 Cent had insisted he was not going back into the booth, but leave it to Curtis Jackson to find a back door. In a move that was as slick as it was perfectly on brand, 50 managed to sneak a response into the cultural conversation through the theme song for his television series Power Origins, titled No One Told Us, featuring Leon Thomas. Buried within those bars were clear references to the sexual assault allegations that T.I. and Tiny have faced. Technically speaking, 50 had responded on a record, just not in the format anyone was expecting. He packaged a diss inside a TV show soundtrack and kept his hands clean of the traditional battle rap format. That is a level of calculated creativity that only a handful of people in entertainment are truly capable of. And as though that were not enough to keep everyone guessing, 50 also hinted, writing in that same since-deleted Instagram post, that new music of his own was on the way. After months of publicly and emphatically refusing to get back into the studio over this beef, the suggestion that actual rap records from 50 Cent could be coming represents a potential escalation that the entire hip-hop world is bracing for. Whether that hint materializes into something real or disappears into the archive of 50's, legendary trolling remains to be seen. So where exactly does this all stand right now? The feud is undeniably active, and neither man is showing the slightest sign of standing down. T.I. is channeling every ounce of this energy into the rollout of what he has promised will be his final album, Kill the King. His farewell letter to the culture that made him royalty. 50 Cent, on the other hand, is operating from a different kind of power altogether. The power of media infrastructure, documentary deals, streaming platform relationships, and social media dominance. These are two very different weapons, and right now, both of them are loaded and pointed at each other. The central question surrounding this beef has evolved. It is no longer simply about whether 50 Cent will finally respond with a diss track. The real question is whether the playbook 50 used to devastate Sean Combs can be successfully replicated against T.I., and whether T.I. has the public relations infrastructure, the legal team, and the personal resilience to absorb whatever impact a full-scale documentary campaign might deliver. The threat alone has already proven it can move culture. The possible documentary only deepens a rivalry that has been simmering in the background of hip-hop for the better part of 2 decades, and which has now erupted in ways that neither man may have fully anticipated when T.I. first picked up his phone on February 6th to record that nightcap appearance. T.I. says he is not afraid. He says he is prepared for whatever direction this takes. He has matched 50 Cent step for step, track for track, post for post, and now apparently threat for threat. But the man standing across from him has a documented history of saying very little, moving very quietly, and then delivering something that permanently alters the story. In 2026, the most dangerous weapon in a hip-hop beef is no longer a diss record. It is a documentary deal with a major streaming platform. And if 50 Cent pulls that trigger for real, this feud will leap from Instagram feeds onto television screens around the world, and the conversation will never be the same. This is far from over. And if history is any guide, the most devastating chapter may not have even been written yet. Stay tuned.